Shohei suddenly felt that living was meaningless, but clearly he was only 41 years old, in good health, and happily married. Not long ago, Shohei bought a house with a yard, a life that many people yearn for. However, the repetitive days made Shohei completely lose passion for life. Shohei's days were like a programmed routine, riding to the subway station, taking the subway to work, doing monotonous work, and returning home the same way after work. Shohei had no friends, no social life, no joys or sorrows, and even lacked emotions. He found speaking even bothersome. Until one day, through the glass of the train, Shohei saw a woman with a good figure and temperament, but radiating sadness and loneliness. Originally, Shohei just wanted to glance from afar after work, as a small relief from his numb life. After observing her from a distance for several days, Shohei finally couldn't hold back and got off the train, heading straight to the woman's building. After some struggle and mental preparation, he approached the door where the woman was. It turned out to be a dance school, and the woman was a dance instructor there. To avoid making this visit seem abrupt, Shohei nervously explained that he wanted to sign up for dance lessons. Because private lessons are expensive, Shohei chose a more cost-effective group class instead. Although his initial purpose for signing up was not purely to learn dance, Shohei still spent over 10,000 yen on a pair of professional dance shoes after enrolling. On Wednesday evening, Shohei went to his first class, only to feel disappointed when he found that Mai, whom he was eager to get close to, only took private lessons. The instructor responsible for teaching Shohei and two other male students was a slightly older woman named Tamako. Though Tamako was a bit older, she had an outstanding temperament and was gentle and kind. When she learned that all three were beginners, she patiently explained the categories of social dances. Waltz, tango, foxtrot, quickstep, and Viennese waltz are classified as modern dances, rumba, cha-cha, samba, tango. And gitter belong to Latin dances. These 10 dances are collectively called international standard dances and are also the designated competition dances. For beginners, these dances are too complicated, so Tamako decided to first teach them mambo and gitter. Although these two dances are basic, they're enough for general social occasions. The dance lesson began with Tamako's light steps and skilled movements. The other two students quickly mastered the steps, but Shohei's body was stiff, and he couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Even with Tamako's personal guidance, he had no feeling for the dance. But Shohei was not anxious. His initial purpose was not to learn dancing, but to observe Mai closely. Mai always appeared aloof and unapproachable, and she never smiled. During the break, Shohei secretly looked at Mai again. A female student named Toyoko suddenly sat beside him and said meaningfully, "Most male students come here for teacher Mai, but besides teaching, she never gives anyone a good face, nor does she give people the chance for further contact." Many give up halfway through their learning, and Toyoko thinks Shohei might not be able to persist to the end. Although Shohei was embarrassed by his thoughts being exposed, he had never considered giving up. The anticipation of meeting Mai rekindled Shohei's passion for life, allowing him to once again experience the beauty of life. Moreover, Shohei's dance steps gradually improved and began to take shape. That Wednesday, after work, Shohei went to the dance studio as usual and unexpectedly saw his colleague Tomio passionately dancing the rumba with his dance partner. Their dance was skillful, immersed, romantic, and captivating everyone's attention. What surprised Shohei even more was that Tomio, usually dull and boring, appeared so flamboyant and charming while dancing. Tomio also recognized Shohei and immediately fell into shame and unease. During a critical moment in the dance, he accidentally collided with Toyoko beside him. Toyoko, who already disliked Tomio, scolded him after being bumped and even tried to retaliate by grabbing Tomio's hair. Unexpectedly, Toyoko pulled off Tomio's wig, and in an instant, the entire classroom fell silent. Tomio's dance partner was the first to speak. "I don't want to dance with Tomio anymore because he embarrassed himself, and I feel embarrassed too." Without looking back, the dance partner left, leaving Tomio humiliated among the crowd. After the farce, Shohei invited Tomio to have dinner together. During their conversation, Shohei learned that Tomio had been practicing dance for 5 years, but because social dance was often seen as a way to flirt with the opposite sex, he, as a single older man, never dared to mention it openly. Hearing this, Shohei nervously drank water, and then Tomio excitedly said, "He really likes dancing. As long as he wears a wig and changes into dance clothes, he feels like a Latin dance king and his usual negative emotions disappear." Tomio also mentioned that he was preparing for a competition organized by the Japan Amateur Dance Association, but unfortunately, he had not found a suitable dance partner. His previous dance partner was someone he met on a dance tour, and he thought they could get along well, or even develop into a couple, but the incident just happened. Fortunately, there is a dance ball next week with many single women. Tomio invited Shohei to go together, but he must keep it a secret from others in the company. Shohei quickly agreed because he also didn't want others to know. Thus, Shohei, who generally disliked socializing, attended a social dance party for the first time on that weekend. As Tomio said, there were women of all types and ages, but regardless of beauty or ordinariness, thin or curvaceous, they were all confident and energetic, and Shohei was just the opposite, due to nervousness. He stood hesitantly aside like a penalty stand, watching men and women in the dance hall happily exchanging dance steps. Until a woman older than Shohei took the initiative to come over and invite him to dance, and Shohei happily agreed. As soon as they got into position, Shohei stepped on her foot because he didn't understand the rules. At first, the woman gently comforted Shohei, saying it was okay as long as he swayed with the music, but as the stumbles increased, she gradually lost patience and Shohei, full of frustration, left the dance floor. Perhaps this experience dealt a blow to him, and Shohei began to practice dancing more diligently, even at home unable to resist practicing his steps. Unexpectedly, this scene was seen by his daughter, and at the same time, his wife Masako sniffed a different perfume scent on Shohei's clothes, leading her to suspect her husband was having an affair. To confirm her suspicion, Masako went to a private detective agency and hired a detective to investigate Shohei. However, after learning the details, the detective asked Masako, why not directly ask her husband? This way, you can get an answer quickly and save a lot of money, as even a normal investigation costs 500,000 yen. Despite the high cost of the investigation, Masako insisted on hiring the detective because she knew her husband's character and integrity, and he would never deliberately deceive her. Therefore, deep down, Masako was more afraid of hearing an unwelcome result. If her husband was indeed having an affair, it would not be a momentary impulse or a brief entanglement. Since their marriage, her husband had always been focused, and even when encountering a lover on the subway, he never paid any attention. Thus, Shohei, emotionally indifferent, if he were to be moved again by love, would surely go all out and be reckless. Masako, unwilling to face such a blow, also held on to a faint hope that her husband might not be cheating, but was instead forced into some unspeakable matter. After hearing this, the detective accepted the assignment and quickly sent someone to infiltrate Shohei's dance class. Unaware, Shohei was now seriously practicing his dance steps. Because Tamako was absent due to an emergency, Mai replaced the group class teacher, and Shohei was fortunate to have his first physical contact with Mai, and they even danced the waltz together. Although Mai was polite and courteous, Shohei was still nervous as he practiced with her. After the training session, Shohei secretly waited downstairs for Mai, deliberately creating a chance for a street encounter. Originally, Shohei thought that if he sincerely invited Mai, she would agree to have dinner with him, but unexpectedly, Mai flatly refused. Rejected, Shohei stood frozen like a puppet, and at this moment, the detective secretly observing witnessed this embarrassing scene. Subsequently, the detective informed Masako with all the evidence. Shohei only learned dance at the dance school, and he attends dances with classmates on weekends, so he only has a perfume scent on him. The detective found no evidence of Shohei's infidelity. Perhaps Shohei was just embarrassed to reveal the truth. Relying on his male intuition, Shohei would soon grow tired of dancing. In fact, this was not intuition. The detective was certain that Shohei, worried about exposing his intentions, would no longer go to the dance classroom. Unexpectedly, Shohei still practiced dancing every week and practiced his steps more diligently than before. Moreover, to maintain his physique, Shohei bought a body support brace, and at night, under dim lighting, he repeated dance moves. Although Shohei did not tell anyone about this, Tomio easily noticed Shohei's progress because even outside of dance time, Shohei unconsciously maintained a tall posture. This is called muscle memory, and it is also the reason why dancers can always keep a good posture. Initially, Shohei was still hesitant about this idea because he felt he was no different from usual, until he saw Tomio take a step forward when turning around, which changed his perspective. Soon it was the weekend again. At Tomio's enthusiastic invitation, Shohei visited the dance hall for the first time. The dance hall was dimly lit, with melodious music, and men and women on the dance floor moved rhythmically, shaking their bodies freely. According to Tomio, the left side of the dance floor was reserved for amateur dance enthusiasts waiting for invitations. If one wanted to dance with a professional dancer, they needed to make an appointment at the front desk in advance. After explaining the basic situation, Tomio confidently entered the dance floor with a dance partner he had already chosen. Meanwhile, Shohei was still standing there at a loss. At this moment, Tamako approached. Tamako wanted to help Shohei choose a suitable dance partner, but Shohei insisted on dancing with Tamako because he wanted to ask Tamako about some dance steps he had never mastered. However, Tamako said, "Dancing is not just about steps. You also need to feel the music with your body. Only by perfectly combining both can you express the essence of dance." Perhaps inspired by her words, Shohei let go of his initial hesitation and no longer confined himself to just steps, beginning to fully feel the pure joy of dancing. At this moment, Tomio's dance partner was attracted away by another handsome man. Although Tomio was filled with resentment, he could only sit alone and be angry. Suddenly, Shohei, who was dancing, saw Mai talking with someone of the opposite sex on the second floor. It turned out that the two had been a well-coordinated dance duo and had even reached the finals of a major dance competition, but later, for some unknown reason, they had a falling out and parted ways. This time, Mai was forced by her father to meet with the other person, who wanted to dance a song with Mai to resolve past grievances. I didn't expect that the man would be rejected by Mai. Because in Mai's view, dance is a solemn and highly competitive art. Each movement and choreography carries the dancer's thoughts and emotions. Dancing is to showcase ultimate beauty and strength on stage and in competitions, not like the crowd in the dance floor in front of her, using dance as an excuse for love and flirtation. Mai believes this is a desecration of dance. However, the other person said, "Dance is a joyful expression unrelated to status or class. Being able to dance freely and passionately is the highest achievement. People in the dance floor release their enthusiasm, and that pure happiness is the meaning of dance." Due to their disagreement, this meeting ended unhappily. Meanwhile, the single Tomio snatched his partner back from his opponent. The dance ended, and the two walked to deserted streets on both sides lined with small inns. The partner straightforwardly said, "Dancing and talking with him both feel uncomfortable. We don't need to meet again." Tomio, abandoned once more, was utterly despairing. He couldn't understand why he was always disliked. Unbeknownst to him, his inadvertent actions were offenses. For example, he was heading towards the subway station, but others saw it as a suspicion of ill intent. Tomio only cared about dancing with no emotional intelligence and didn't notice this, which was also one of the reasons he has been single until now. Wednesday arrived as scheduled, but Shohei did not go to the dance studio on time. Toyoko, who often partnered with him, had to choose one from two other male students to replace him. One was short and the other fat. After much hesitation, Toyoko reluctantly chose the tall, plump Masahiro. Unexpectedly, Masahiro, due to his weak constitution, broke into a heavy sweat after just a few minutes of practice, and Toyoko scolded him upon seeing this. Masahiro cried and explained, "Because of my weight, my ex-girlfriend disliked me. I started dancing to lose weight. At first, I felt shy and insecure about it, but later I fell in love with dance. Dance gave me happiness and strength, but I still face rejection." Toyoko, upon hearing this, felt her words were inappropriate and immediately bowed to apologize. However, as Toyoko bent down, she fell to the ground. It turned out that Toyoko had signed up for an upcoming dance competition, and to achieve good results, she practiced tirelessly every night. Moreover, as a single mother, Toyoko needed to work 3 part-time jobs to support her daughter's education, which caused her to overexert and faint. What surprised Shohei most was that Toyoko chose Shohei as her partner because he looked very much like Toyoko's late husband. Perhaps out of sympathy for Toyoko's effort, or simply out of genuine kindness, when Tamako learned that Toyoko was still looking for a partner for the competition, she suggested that Shohei participate and was willing to offer the venue and guidance for free. Initially, Shohei was reluctant to agree because his dance skills were far from adequate, but Tamako's repeated requests eventually led Shohei to accept the challenge. However, Toyoko learned of this, but refused to partner with Shohei. She did not disdain Shohei. She simply did not want to be subjected to sympathy or charity. Under Tamako's careful guidance, Toyoko's psychological barriers were effectively alleviated. Subsequently, Shohei and Toyoko engaged in intensive training. Although Shohei could meet basic requirements in modern dance, he was completely unfamiliar with Latin dance. Learning and reaching competition standards within 3 months was almost impossible. As a result, Toyoko became increasingly anxious. At this moment, Tomio arrived at the dance studio. Originally, after being rejected by his dance partner, Tomio had given up on the competition and hadn't been to the dance studio for a long time. It wasn't until Shohei told Tomio that he was also actively preparing for the event that Tomio rekindled his fighting spirit. Tomio's arrival gave Tamako an idea to let Tomio, who was good at Latin dance, be Toyoko's Latin dance partner, and Shohei to be Toyoko's modern dance partner. After mutual agreement, Tamako also invited Mai as an external helper. Thus, the four began to practice. First, Toyoko and Tomio practiced Latin dance, with no emotional connection, only a strong desire to compete. Meanwhile, Shohei and Mai practiced modern dance, but due to nervousness, Shohei kept making mistakes, causing Mai to constantly criticize him. As time passed and their professionalism improved, Shohei gradually mastered the rhythm, and sometimes Shohei and Tomio practiced in the company's restroom. If they were unlucky enough to be caught by colleagues, Tomio would pretend to faint. Once the basic training was almost complete, Mai shared her valuable experience from previous competitions with the three of them. During the competition, 10 pairs of contestants danced simultaneously every minute, with judges only able to focus on 10 seconds. Moving from the audience seats to the stage for the curtain call could attract more attention. Shohei practiced drawing diagrams and rehearsing in the rain to master the techniques. After 3 months, Shohei and Toyoko completed their final pre-competition training under Mai's guidance, with smooth steps and perfect coordination. Toyoko left early due to exhaustion, leaving Shohei and Mai somewhat awkward. Mai took the initiative to start a conversation, mentioning Blackpool, a quiet seaside town that was bustling before the competition. Mai arrived in Blackpool at the age of 5, attracted by dancers in the dance hall, and dance became her everything from then on. Shohei confided in Mai about his initial motivation for learning dance. He was 28, married, bought a house at 40, living a stable life, but was lost due to mortgage pressures, feeling a deep emptiness inside, once on the tram. Shohei was touched by Mai's lonely expression and mustered the courage to learn dance in order to get closer to her. Shohei just wanted to dance a song with Mai. After being discovered, Shohei practiced hard to prove he had no ill intentions, but in the process, he truly fell in love with dance. Spinning and stepping passionately made him genuinely feel the meaning of being alive. Mai apologized to Shohei for her past rudeness and also confessed that she had secretly watched Shohei practicing dance at the platform through the window, a moment that deeply moved and unforgettable for her. This conversation changed their relationship. They still maintained a safe distance. The amateur dance competition arrived as scheduled, with a crowd surging and contestants eager to try, but Shohei was so nervous that he was dazed beside the stage. In the first round, the rumba was performed by Toyoko and Tomio. Initially confident, they were disrupted by Tomio's former dance partner's malicious interference and failed to perform at their best. Toyoko was furious, and Tomio, worried about his wig being dislodged, became distracted and ultimately angrily took off his wig. Freed from restraint, Tomio appeared focused and undistracted, working seamlessly with Toyoko, successfully advancing. The interfering former partner was disqualified. The competition then moved to the waltz stage, with Shohei and Toyoko partnering. Before the start, Shohei was so nervous he was clumsy, but once on the dance floor, he quickly adjusted. Even when accidentally bumped into mid-performance, he immediately recovered and continued without being affected. In social dance competitions, collisions are not simply scored based on who bumped whom. The key is how contestants respond afterward, if they can quickly adjust and resume performance, demonstrating adaptability and professionalism. They not only avoid losing points, but may gain extra points. In the end, Shohei successfully completed the performance. However, during the quick-step dance, Shohei, fully immersed, suddenly heard his daughter calling, which threw him off and caused him to step on Toyoko's dress. The entire venue fell silent, and Toyoko, ashamed, fled the scene. After the match, Shohei went home and had a deep conversation with Masako for the first time in years. It turned out Masako was invited by a detective to watch the competition. The detective wanted her to let go of her worries, but triggered an unexpected event. Masako was not opposed to Shohei learning dance. In fact, she had always hoped he would have private social interactions outside of work. She had long sensed that Shohei was being consumed by life's pressures. What puzzled Masako was, as a couple, why Shohei didn't tell her the truth and excluded her from his life. After hearing Masako's words, Shohei didn't explain much, only saying he would no longer dance. That world was never truly his. Since then, Shohei's life returned to its former dullness, and the smile that once blossomed because of dance quietly disappeared. One day, in the office, Shohei overheard colleagues mocking Tomio privately for participating in the competition, and he could no longer bear it and spoke out to stop them. He doesn't understand why those trapped in trivial work, with no courage to pursue their dreams, look down on those brave enough to chase theirs with a sense of superiority. This scene was fully observed by Tomio hiding in the corner. Previously, he was ridiculed by a magazine over a wig incident, had planned to give up dance, but his faith was rekindled by Shohei's support. The next day, Tomio and Toyoko went to Shohei's house, inviting him to continue dancing, and Toyoko also said she didn't mind the accident last time. Guilt made Shohei politely decline Tomio and Toyoko's invitation. Toyoko had anticipated this and took out Mai's handwritten letter. In the letter, Mai thanked Shohei for helping her resolve her inner turmoil. 2 years ago in May, she and her dance partner entered the black pool finals, but were unexpectedly knocked down and lost. She blamed her partner for not protecting her, but he was unapologetic and ended their partnership. After returning to her country, she was determined to find a top dance partner to return to the peak, but was opposed by her father and was forced to become a dance teacher. Initially, she just went through the motions until she guided Shohei and Toyoko to compete and realized that she had been too focused on herself, viewing her partner as subordinate, and her failure at Blackpool stemmed from a lack of trust. Now she understood her father's intentions and planned to restart in the UK. Mai also invited Shohei to her farewell dance. Although Shohei was touched by Mai's letter, he decided not to attend her farewell dance to avoid experiencing the emptiness after waking from a dream. After learning this, Masako advised Shohei to follow his heart, or he would have regrets for life, and she proactively offered to learn dance, hoping to rekindle his passion. At first, Shohei deliberately avoided it, but his daughter took their hands and led them to the yard, asking, "Since you're married, why can't you dance together?" Perhaps not wanting to embarrass his daughter or feeling guilty towards Masako, he danced with Masako, who couldn't help but choke with tears. Once, they were close and inseparable, but later grew cold and distant, silent in each other's presence. Neither was at fault. They simply drifted apart over time. Now they both realized that problems could gradually be solved, and love and life would eventually return to normal. In the blink of an eye, Mai's farewell dance was held as scheduled, and everyone arrived as promised. Shohei, however, ran to the arcade, hesitated, and ultimately took the train home. As he wistfully looked at the familiar dance studio, he saw writing on the glass, "Mr. Sugiyama, please dance with me." At the end of the dance party, Mai was choosing a male guest to dance with, but after several scans of the spotlight, she hadn't chosen anyone until Shohei rushed into the light. Shohei finally fulfilled his initial wish to dance with Mai, and Mai experienced for the first time the beauty of truly trusting a dance partner.